Hello everyone, my name is Alex. I'm a 2000 rated over-the-board chess player, and in this series we're going from 1500 to 2000 Elo in chess.com rapid games, where I'll be explaining my thought process as best as I can for your education and entertainment. Today we have a Sicilian defense, and I'm going to play a3, known as the Mengarini variation, and I have a whole playlist on my channel dedicated to this specific variation if you want to watch more videos on it and learn it more for yourself. My opponent goes a6, and this kind of makes our idea a bit weird, because we can still push the move b4. I think we probably should still push the move b4. It's no longer a gambit of a pawn, but I still think it's a good thing to do, because a6 doesn't really do anything. Yeah, okay, you can go b6. I assume you want to fianchetto the bishop. Although, if you're going to play b6, then why did you bother with a6? That doesn't really make any sense. Yeah, this is not a line that I don't think I've really seen this line before. So this will be interesting. Basically trying to figure out what to do when I'm completely out of opening theory on, like, move 3. So this will be a very interesting video, because you guys will find yourself in these positions where your opponent just plays something that you've never ever seen before. And it looks fine. It looks completely playable, what black is playing. So it's not like we're just going to stomp him immediately or anything. So, okay. First question, should we take? Well, we could take. We open the B file. Only black can use the B file, though. We can't. We have no good access to it. We could just continue with knight to c3. One downside of knight c3, obviously, we're defending e4, which he's about to attack. We are stopping our bishop from being quite as useful on the b2 square, potentially. I also like the look of bishop c4, so that we can meet bishop to b7 with the move d3. However, then there's d5, so maybe if bishop c4, bishop d7, we play knight to c3. And if knight to f6, again, trying to play the move d5, I suppose e5 looks pretty good there, and the knight just gets kicked out of the center, unless you come to e4, something like take the... Oh no, g2 hangs. Oh, g2 is hanging. Yeah, we can't play that. Let me think a second. I think we can play knight f3 in that line. Okay, I think I like that. So my plan is bishop b7, knight c... Okay, well, he doesn't play bishop b7, so scrap that. Scrap that. My opponent just isn't playing theory at all. Now, what e6 does is it means that now black is threatening to win the b4 pawn, and we could insist on the gambit, or we could take, or we could push. It doesn't really make sense to defend the pawn with c3, I don't think. It's just stifling our own development. So what e6 also does is prepares to push the move d5. So let's say we play a move like b5, saving the pawn, then d5, and black is taking over the center very, very quickly. So I am inclined to take on c5 instead, with the idea being, after my opponent takes back, now I can react to the move d5. And if he were to take with the bishop, then I can push d4 with tempo, and that looks very good. So c takes, and now d5 is on the way, so we should probably stop that, I guess, with knight to c3. I'm expecting bishop to b7, and then we can probably just play rook to b1, attacking the bishop. And if d5, rook b7, dc4, the black pawn structure is horrific, and we have a rook on the 7th rank, so that should be very nice. Yeah, this is a really, really interesting game, because like I said, we are completely out of opening theory very quickly. So the skill of trying to play, like, a good game of chess with no opening theory is a very useful skill to have. I do, however, know this structure of pieces in the center. This I am familiar with, so that will help. e6 is not threatened, because black has 2 defenders, we have 3 attackers. He may be trying to play a move like knight to a5, but we always have the a2 square for the bishop to retreat to, so that's not a problem. I'm kind of tempted to just go rook b1, to stop bishop b7. And if rook b1, rook b8, of course I'll happily trade. So I think I should play that. Rook b1. Gotham will be very proud of me for that, if you know, you know. Some of you may be tempted to play the move queen to f3 in some of these lines to add more defense to the d5 square, but be aware that knight to e5 would fork your queen and your bishop, and if queen f3, knight e5, you'd have to play queen e2 and defend the bishop and have to take. I mean, black just has the bishop pair. So if black offers a trade of rooks, I will happily accept it because his knight will have to go back, which just means his development is slow. And now we have some options. d3 looks very reasonable, just preparing to develop the dark squared bishop. Knight f3 looks reasonable. However, I don't know if I want to commit to knight to f3. I feel like I want to play f4 first, and then play knight to f3. Which is kind of the point of delaying the development of the g1 knight to play f4. We could, however, play d3 to remain flexible, and then go for this. However, d3 does destabilize our knight on c3. Maybe queen a5 is annoying. And, of course, bishop d2, you can take on a3. So, I think I'd rather play f4. Which also means that I have more support for the move e5 if I want to play it in the future, which is a very common idea in these types of opening structures. Okay, really? I mean, obviously g3. I don't understand this move. Okay, great. I don't what? Black just isn't developing his pieces. We are currently 10 moves into the game, and all of black's pieces are on their starting squares. What is going on? Okay, well, let's just develop. I don't really understand. I'm just going to castle. Yeah, d3, queen a5. I mean, even bishop b2 looks reasonable. This is a very nice diagonal. I could just castle as well. I suppose, actually, if castles, then bishop e4, though. And after knight to 2e4, then d5 comes with a fork. So no, we should probably play the move d3. Always be aware of those center fork tricks when you have a bishop on c4. It very often happens earlier in the game, on, like, I don't know, move 4 or something. In, like, a 4-knight system with bishop c4. That's what I used to play with the black pieces. But yeah, it's something to always be aware of. And at the end of the day, our development is incredibly good. We have a lot of space. Our pawns are taking up a lot of space in the center. Our pieces are very well situated to fight for the center. We're going to castle, and f5 will probably happen at some point. Okay, knight to e7. Knight to e7. So, knight e7 is a good move. Black is trying to play the move d5, I guess, right? So I assume we just retreat the bishop. We could go to b3. Is it better to go to b3 or a2? The reason I want to retreat the bishop is because d5, when that happens, I'd rather it not come with tempo on my bishop. I want to have the option of pushing e5 to decline the trade. Although I don't know if I do want to do that, because that could open up this diagonal, which would be annoying. So, I could go bishop b2, d5, take. No, I don't like that. What about queen e2? d5, take. No, I can't take. Even though I'm pinning the knight, he still has enough support. So I can't do that. Yeah, I should have retreated the bishop, I think. I think I prefer to go to the b3 square, just because I'm blocking up the b file. I also have access to a4, which could be useful. And the bishop is very well defended on b3, whereas on a2, it's not as well defended. So I think I prefer this. If d5, let's say e5. If d4, then knight to e4, and I like our position. If d5, e5, knight to f5. Nice. What is my opponent doing? I don't understand some of these moves. This is such a weird game of chess. This is a really weird game of chess. If you're enjoying the video so far, by the way, please drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. I assume he wants to just play bishop e7 and castle. I mean, that must be the idea. So let's just castle and not overcomplicate things. Now, one weakness to my position is the fact that both of these diagonals are kind of weak towards my king, which is not necessarily ideal. Knight d4. Okay, so knight d4 is normally met with knight to e2 to challenge the knight and prepare c3 to kick it away. However, my bishop is currently under attack. So maybe I should just take to block this diagonal forever. Yeah, let's do that. I like that. And then we can rotate the knight to e2, apply pressure, encourage bishop c5. We could go bishop b2 to apply more pressure, but knight c6 is fine. My idea is to go f5. Open this up, try to open this up, try to open this up. The knight coming to f4 to h5, the queen coming to g4 or h5. This looks pretty crushing. And the reason that I really like taking on d4 and forcing the pawn to take is because now I can get away with potentially weakening this diagonal because this diagonal is shut. So I don't have to worry so much about my king. Okay, e5, good move. Makes sense. You do open this up, but I don't have an immediate way to punish black. So, okay, the first move we should look at is f6. Can I play f6? Of course, black should probably take. If you push, bishop h6 looks pretty damn good. Something like g4, knight g3. I mean, that looks crushing. So f6 take. Bishop h6. Preparing bishop g7 and bishop takes f6. So f6 take bishop h6, let's say rook g8, stopping that. Yeah, it's not so easy. Not so easy. Okay, what else can we play? If we develop this bishop, this could be taken, but I mean, it's not really the end of the world. Necessarily. Here, take. This feels like the right thing to do to sack the pawn. The issue is my knight can't really move, so I can't really get my queen out. What about just g4 to play knight g3? Okay, well if g4, that gives the queen access to the h4 square. But after knight to g3, g4 is defended. And something like f6 followed by knight to f5 looks incredibly strong. So I think g4 should be the move. If h5, then we just push g5, supported by the bishop, which looks fine. We could also rotate our queen over here, if given the opportunity. Ooh, f6. That looks horrific. Look at this diagonal, and black just can't really challenge me. You can try and execute d5, I suppose. That'd probably be the way. Okay, let's say knight g3, d5, knight h5, going after g7, king f8. G5 looks very scary. If take, then f6. Yeah, this has got to be the way. This has got to be the way. I mean, black just isn't developed very well. We could take. I mean, it wouldn't be ridiculous. But I feel like we're letting black off the hook a bit if we do that. To me, it seems to make more sense to try to go after his king. What about actually g5, preparing queen h5, rather than going knight h5? If g5... Well, if take, you just lose. You must be losing. You must be. So let's go g5. That feels right. Trying to open up the lines towards the black king. Okay. No, taking can't be played. If g6, I just take. If here... Check or check? King c7? I mean, I can just take this. Take this. I don't know. It looks fine to me. This is really weird. Okay, let's go queen h5. What's the point? What's the point? I suppose I can't open up the H file for the time being. But I don't know if it's that big a deal. Okay, king d7. I could give this check. If bishop blocks, then take, knight takes e4. If knight blocks, then knight takes e4. Blocking the bishop's defense. If check, queen e7. Check. King d8. I think that's okay for black. Take. Yeah, that looks alright. For black, I mean. Okay, what about bishop a4 check? If you block, that's good for me. So let's say you move. Let's say king c7. Check, queen here. Queen c4, maybe, is interesting. I just refuse to believe this is playable. Check here, check. Yeah, the king can just go to d8, and he's actually alright. It's hard to weave a mating net here, because I only really have two pieces participating. If I take on e4, then I'm a bit concerned about d3 check. King h1. Well, that just opens up the d file, actually. Yeah, that just opens the d file. If I take, do I have a threat, though? Okay, what if I give this check? You have to go to c7. I think. And then what? In queen e7, sorry, queen f7, queen e7. Yeah, that seems like he's holding on. Maybe I should just do this. Because material is equal. I think d3 would be wrong. Because all that will do is open up the d file, which I feel like I should be the one who can use that, not black. Super interesting game. We've got to be careful here, because if we trade too many pieces, then black's lack of king safety will be far less relevant, and black might be okay there. So we do have to be precise as we can. Okay, the immediate king to c7. Alright. Check, queen e7. I could play bishop d2. Just preparing bishop a5. If check, I just move. That's fine. If here... knight c6 stops bishop a5. Kind of annoying. What about bishop d5, blocking the queen's access to the d file? Check here, take. Well, then my bishop doesn't defend here. Check. Queen e7. I don't think taking does anything. Except for expose my own king. take. Oh, this is a really interesting position. This is really interesting, and I don't really have enough time to calculate everything. What about just king h1? Well, I assume d3 anyway, because the queen supports d3. But then rook d1, and I'm just winning the pawn. So let's go. What about king g2? Is king g2 better? Is there a difference? I think king g2. That's what I'm going to go for. Just getting off of this checking diagonal. Also, I'm very low on time, so I don't really have time to be calculating everything. I think I also want to play bishop d5 now that d3 doesn't come with a check. Super interesting. Queen e7, okay. Stopping this. Applying pressure here. Makes sense. We could just go a4. We could take. Although that feels wrong. Although we do stop the rook from getting involved. It's like take isn't that big a deal. There is queen g7, I suppose, though. So probably don't take. Rook f3 is interesting. I don't think it's that good. Well, black can't really take here anyway, because if take, then queen f7 and you can't block. So you can't really take on a3, so I don't really have to worry about that. Rook f3 is an interesting looking move. Maybe I can do something like this. You just can't take on a3. Yeah, something like bishop to d5 and rook to b3 looks very interesting. Look, applying pressure to b7. Knight c6 will probably have to be played to block that and just develop the knight anyway. Black can't really attack my e-pawn, which is nice. Part of the reason I put the king on g2 is so that he can come to f3 if he needs to defend e4, especially if the queens come off the board. I'm not 100% sure what the role of my queen should be, because she's doing a good job at just applying pressure right now. If h6, I assume we lock the structure and then switch our focus, because our king is on the king side. And then we can bring our queen to like e1 or something. Looks natural. Although, if h6 and g6, and then you can take, and then I don't have queen f7. Okay. Okay, well, this is obvious what our move is. So let's go bishop d5, ensure this is defended, because now if take on a3, we don't have queen f7 with check. So bishop d5 just defends this, applies pressure here, prepares rook b3 check. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm trying to ensure that the king can't just go to a7 and be nice and safe. I don't want that. And also, we have the bishop pair. So we should be making use of the bishop pair. Also unclear how this knight can attack my bishop. Like, all the squares that it would want to go to attack my bishop, there's problems. b4 is defended, e7 is occupied, and a6 is occupied. So you can't really access any of the squares that attack my bishop, and obviously b6 is occupied. So rook b3 is pretty unstoppable. Something like here, I don't know. Then maybe I can drop my queen back to bring her into the action. Potentially. Okay, let's give it a check. This knight is very vulnerable. Defended only by the king. Okay. Queen e2 looks very good, going after a6. I don't see a reason not to play this. My king is pretty safe. He can always go to h1 if needs be. And taking doesn't really do anything, because you're not opening anything up. And if h6, then I will push g6 and lock everything. Now also a3 is well defended. This is a super interesting position. This just doesn't feel like a normal game of chess. This feels like a very strange game of chess. I don't know if you guys feel it too, but this just feels odd to me. Okay. Rook a8. Alright, well, you are defending, but things look very shaky. Let's just say that. Things look very shaky. Queen c4 looks interesting, applying pressure to the c-file. I don't know what the follow-up is, though. Maybe queen c4, bishop d2, preparing something like bishop a5 ideas? Oh, wait, no, queen c4 is a really good move. There's a nice tactic. Can you find the tactic? It's relatively obvious now that I've played it. I'm simply just threatening to take the knight, and then king takes, and then the queen comes to d5 and skewer the king and the rook. And then we'll just be up a rook. Again, my king looks incredibly exposed, but black's king is incredibly exposed. I've also just blundered an exchange. I don't know why I did that. That was weird. Okay, let's not panic, though, because the rook is hanging. So it's not so simple. How do we do this? The first thing I'm looking at is giving this check, forcing knight takes, but I don't really have a follow-up. What else? Well, queen a4 is the more obvious looking move. If knight takes b3, queen c6 check. Yeah, that's completely winning. Completely winning. Check. And then you move, and then I take with check. And now material is equal, except the knight is hanging. And then, what, I give a check? And this just game over. Because I'll trade queens with you. Probably. Check. Here. Is there a mating net? Check. Here. I don't think so. I don't think so. Check here. Let's just trade queens. Let's not overcomplicate this. I'm just going up a full piece. So let's take. I'm taking with the bishop because if I take with the pawn, then he gets a passed d pawn, and I should be fine defending that. But there's no need to give him that. And now, because black's king was so exposed, what looked like black winning an exchange is now me being up a piece. And obviously, up an entire bishop in the endgame, we should have no problem converting this. So, a Sicilian defense, technically, is what was played in the opening. But, yeah, that was a really strange game of chess. Really strange game of chess. Bishop h6 sets a nice trap. If take, then I just pick up the bishop. Yeah, there we go. Lovely. And also, if you don't take, then I'm trying to invade. Also, a4 would secure the bishop. Sorry, the pawn. Check. And then we'll just pick up all the pawns. The bishops create a force field against the black king. Now you can come here, but it's too little too late. And then if a4, I'll just sack the bishop. Because it's irrelevant. And then we'll push. And you just can't stop the pawn. There we go. GG. That was a really interesting game. The opening was incredibly scuffed. Because it wasn't a real opening. But yeah, I hope you guys learned a lot and enjoyed that game. I thought that was really interesting. I have no idea who was better or worse at various points in the game, but it was just chaotic. Let's jump into the analysis and see what the computer has to say. Alright, so 87.7% accuracy for us, 78.2 for my opponent. I don't know why our accuracy isn't higher, because we had no blunders, no misses, no mistakes. We did have 5 inaccuracies though, but that's pretty good going, considering that was a nothing opening. Like, it wasn't a real opening. That was such a weird game. Okay, let's see what the computer says. So e4, c5, a3. As I said, this is what I play against the Sicilian defense. And a6 is not really a move. The computer doesn't like b4. It prefers that I just develop normally. Which, I mean, I suppose I understand. But then after b5, I can't play bishop c4. And I want to play bishop c4 because I want to put the bishop on a2 to justify the a3 move. But I play b4. My thought process is, if take, I'm very happy, because after e5, I have ideas of b5. And you can't take because of take. And I thought that was quite nice. And the computer agrees. But my opponent doesn't take. He plays b6, which is a strange move. I went bishop c4, the engine wants d4. I did consider the move d4. I thought it was very interesting looking. What I couldn't figure out, though, just by a glance, was after take and knight c6. I don't know, I just wasn't sure about this position. Now the computer shows me, I think it's clear that my bishop will come to b2, and my queen is very nice on e3, and this is just a nice looking position. But it's difficult to say at the time. So I went bishop c4, e6, bc5, bc5, knight c3, all very reasonable. Knight c6, rook b1, rook b8, which confused me. I didn't really understand why he was undeveloping, but I guess he wanted to put the bishop on b7. I thought it made more sense to just develop kingside and play moves like knight to f6, let's say d3, and just bishop e7, let's say f4, and just castle. I thought this was, you know, much better. Rook b8, though. Take, f4. The engine doesn't love f4, but as we saw in the game, f4 is what made chaos happen, which is what helped us win. So I just like playing f4 in a lot of these lines. Queen h4, I didn't understand, because just g3, and the queen goes back, and what was the point? I don't know, you just wasted a move. You could argue you're weakening this diagonal, I guess, but, you know, bishop b7, d3, knight to e7. Computer wants the immediate f5, and if take, we just castle, and we're just opening lines. Interesting. And if you don't take, then we castle anyway. Okay, I guess so. I went bishop b3, knight e to c6, which I didn't understand. The engine wants knight c8. Of course, knight c8. The obvious best move to free up the e7 square. And then what? Just castle, f5. Not gonna lie, the engine says this is playable for black, but I would always take white here. I don't really understand pushing just yet, though. Oh, right, okay, yeah, no, now I understand. And the only move is knight d6 to defend, and then you just lose a pawn. And if you take, then you just lose. Take, knight takes, game over. Yeah, makes sense. f5 is a big threat. And this is the thing. The computer didn't like the immediate f4, but all of these winning lines are via f5. So anyway, knight e to c6, castles, knight d4, take. I was very happy with this. Computer wants knight b1, by the way, which I don't understand. Okay, wants to put... Oh, I guess just put the knight on f3 and then hop in. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I liked knight e2 because I felt like I was forcing bishop c5, which is a mistake because now f5, and we're doing incredibly well. The engine wants knight c6, f5, queen c7. I don't know how the engine is claiming that black is okay here. This just looks completely lost. The only move is g6, which again looks horrific. So, I don't know. You can make of that what you will. My opponent went for the obvious bishop c5. I played f5, e5. Okay, the engine does like g4. It wants c3 as well, which I do not understand. Why are we giving up a pawn? Knight d4, ed4. Okay, and let's say you just... Oh, bishop g5. So let's say queen e7, bishop g5, queen f8. And then we just switch our attention. Bishop c4 on the way. Like, knight c6. Bishop d5. Oh my god. Bishop d5, and I suppose this is getting incredibly hard for black to defend. Oh, and g4. Engine likes it. f6, knight g3. Apparently the immediate g5 is better, and if take, now knight g3. I don't really see the difference. d5, g5 is the best move. de4. Okay, queen h5 is inaccurate. Better is this. And if this, king h1, if take, queen takes, we're very happy here. We have loads of play. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. I went queen h5. And king d7 is the only move that doesn't lose on the spot. King e7, and I mean, you just lose. If you try to block, then obviously I just take and open everything up. You can't take this. So it's very nice. King d7 is the only move. Knight e4 is the best move. Very happy to have found that, because it took me a while. But the problem is, I was trying to figure out queen f7, but it's just not good. Our best plan is apparently queen e6, and then just knight e4. And we're just trading. I don't want to trade. So, knight e4, bishop e4, de4. I wasn't concerned about d3, because I figured that after dc2, we just had a lot of play against the black king. Because the d-file's opening, and this is just good. It should be. So king c7 is the best move. Wow. Wow. My opponent found the best move. That's impressive. King g2 is the best move. Let's go. Ha! Okay, awesome. Queen e7. Rook f3, not the best. gf3 is the best? What? gf3? Sorry, gf6. I rejected this on the basis of queen g7 in the future. But now it wants rook f3. Oh, and then we just go rook g3. Okay. Okay. Makes sense. King b6. Knight d7 is better. Which does look more natural to me, to be honest. But king b6. Trying to run to the queen side. Bishop d5, best move. Because now we're going to go rook b3. King c7. Queen e2 is the best move. Going after a6. Rook a8 defending. And queen c4. Better is take followed by queen c4 with the same idea. And after rook a7, queen d5. Wait, why can't you just do this to defend the d5 square? gf6, gf6. There's never rook g8. a4. What's the point? Oh, we're just going to apply more pressure, but we're not threatening anything. Let's say black plays nothing. Oh, right. This is a big problem. And if you move the king away from this, then you just lose the bishop. Okay, very computer-like, which should be unsurprising. I went queen c4, my opponent went knight a5. I initially thought, oh no, I'm losing the exchange, but queen a4 is the only move. You can take here first, and then go queen a4, but it's the same idea. Queen a4 is the only move. And black blunders. Queen c6, king d8, queen a8, king c7, queen b7, king d8. The engine finds a mate. Oh, well, no, it's a prolonged mate. From here, it's mate in 6, but I thought it was far easier just to trade and go a piece up, and I mean, the rest of the game is pretty elementary. I liked bishop h6 setting this trap, and just eating all the pawns, and my opponent resigns because he can't do anything. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a really interesting video, I think. Absolute chaos. Absolute chaos. If you want to see a game where we actually get a more normal A3 Sicilian, check out the video up here. And if you want to see the previous episodes of the speedrun, check out the playlist down there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in one of those videos.